Welcome to our CloudBadging ID badge design and print software training video series. In this video, we will focus on printing badges. We will review how and why you would create a record in print versus searching the data set and printing a record or more than one record of information. Now, the majority of this video will be focused on how to print from the print menu. However, it is possible to print from the records menu, so we will talk about that as well. Also, as we're going through this video, you're going to see what is, in fact, an error message popping up. And that's because of the browser that I'm using, Microsoft Edge. Microsoft Edge is not a supported browser for printing. And you might be wondering why I'm using Edge in this video series, and that's largely to try to reinforce for folks that Edge is not a supported browser for printing at the current time through CloudBadging. You can use Edge to design templates, create records of information, and many other tasks, but you're not able to print using Edge. Another browser that has some limitations for printing at the current time is Chrome, Google's Chrome browser. For that browser, if you are encoding magnetic stripes with information, that browser is not an option for you at this time. You'll have to use either Internet Explorer, Firefox, or Safari if you have magnetic stripes. But otherwise, any other type of printing or encoding of information that's currently supported in CloudBadging will work just fine using Chrome. Okay, so let's go to that print menu, and as soon as we get there, you'll see that error message that I was talking about. It says, warning, printing is not supported by Edge. Please change browsers. Okay, so we'll of course assume that we would change browsers into one of the supported browsers. Again, those would be Internet Explorer, Chrome, again remember that caveat for magnetic stripes, Firefox, and Safari. Now here, when I go to the print menu, if I look to the lower left of my banner, you'll see that I've actually got 3 different submenus. Now when you first start using the CloudBadging system, from the dashboard you might have gone through that one-time setup step of setting up your printer. Here I'll click on the setup menu and just confirm that we have in fact already indicated to CloudBadging the printer, the make, and the model that we're using. I don't need to change that, so I'll just go back to either capture and print or search and print. Well, what's the difference between these two? Well, if I go to capture and print, and again you'll see that error message popping up, the whole idea here is if you are at the point where you have literally, typically, somebody standing in front of you wanting to have you capture their information and then print a badge, well, this would be the option you'll probably want to use. So when I click on Capture and Print, you'll see that this New Record tab is highlighted. And what I can do is I can start creating a record. You can type in the ID number, type in the first name, type in the level, let's say 10th level. Then down to the title field, and maybe this person is a supervisor of some sort. The photo, again, we could either use our webcam or browse our file system to find a file. Here's my photos folder, and I'll use this particular image right here. While that's populating the database, I can scroll down. You'll see that's just the image being populated. I can choose a date if I'm using a date data element to populate those pieces of information. And then you'll see that as I was doing that, over here on the right, the print preview was being constructed. I've got my card, there's my image, I've got my person's first and last name printing on there. On side 2, I've got it oriented such that even though it's landscape on the front side, I rotated the data elements in my template design to make it look like a portrait on the back. And here I've got a barcode, some information, their name and their description or level at this point. And then just a simple if found, please call us, and then our company logo. Now, once you've entered in that information, you'll want to save that record and print. So I click Save and Print, and then you'll see a print dialog appear. At that point, what you'll want to do is make sure that the landscape or portrait orientation is appropriate for the type of card that you're printing. And then you'll want to make sure that your scale is appropriate and your margins. Typically what you want with margins is to turn them off. That's not an option in Edge. You can specify that information elsewhere, but that's part of the reason why it's not a supported browser at the current time. But that is a common problem that folks will run into when they print for the first time from the cloud badging system, is when they print, what happens is the browser is enforcing some margins and or it's printing headers and footers. And so what they'll actually get on the card, here I'll turn those headers and footers on, and you can see in the print preview, it's probably a little hard to see, but up here at the top it says page 1 of 2, and down here at the bottom I've got a web address and a time date stamp. Most likely you probably are not going to want that when you actually print your cards. So you'll want to make sure that you turn off headers and footers, and you want to set your margins either to off, or if you can specify a particular value in inches, 0 or as close to 0 as your browser will allow you to input. Once you've done that, just click print, and it'll print that badge for you after you click print. Now you might be thinking, do I have to do that every time I print? No, you don't. Those are just one-time setup steps if you need to turn off your margins or turn off the headers and footers, those sorts of things. That's a one-time step. Okay, so that's how you would do a capture and print. You want to create a record of information and then right away after that, print that record. Well, what if you need to print a record of information that already exists? Typically, this is going to be because somebody is coming to you for a reprint of a badge. Maybe they lost it or broke it or whatever the issue is. Well, in that case, you'll want to go to the Search and Print submenu. And again, that error message warning me about the Edge browser will appear. Now here I've got a couple of options. If I want to, I can search through my data set using a field of information. So here you'll see on the left I've got my search window. So if I wanted to look for all of my records where the person's name is equal to, say, oh, how about Jim? Well, I can do that. I can click search, and then it'll show me that record. Okay, fine. Wonderful. Well, if I want to clear my search, I click clear over here, and then that'll get me back to all my records. You'll see there's another option over here, show only records that haven't been printed. Well, I can check that checkbox and then search, and then that'll show me just those records that haven't been printed. That might be helpful. But otherwise, again, you would want to search through, get your result, or you might want to minimize that search window and then just simply visually scan through the records of information that you've got in the system and clicking your checkbox along the way, or the top checkbox to select all or deselect all. Some folks then run into a problem where they only see a certain number of records and want to print more at one time. What you'll need to do there is here in the upper right corner of the window is a way to toggle the number of records that you can see per page. So the maximum that you can toggle that to is 100 records per page, which means that the upper limit of how many records you can print as one print job is 100. Now, once you've selected your record or records that you want to print, you'll click the print button here at the top. And again, it gives me that little warning message. Here, I can cycle through a template of all my print jobs. So down at the bottom, I've got a previous record or next record buttons. And you'll see as I click on those buttons to cycle through, it shows me my, in this case, 2 cards that I want to print. Once you're ready to actually make the print, you just click Print Cards here. You'll see this little Generating Cards message, and then that same print dialog box will appear. And again, if that's the first time that you're printing, you need to adjust it so the orientation is correct, the margins will be turned off, and the headers are turned off. So the other way that you can print in the system, I mentioned that you can print from the Records screen as well. So let's go to the Records menu. And here, I can select my records one at a time, more than one. I can search just the way I was searching on the print screen. However, here what you do when you're ready to print is you're going to click the print link. Now here you'll see I've selected 2 records, and when I click print, I get my error message. It's only showing me 1 record here. And that's because the idea here from the record screen, let me go back here, is you're only going to print 1 record at a time from here. That's just the assumption that we make. Now, of course, that may not be what you want. Maybe you want to print more than 1 record at one time. Well, if that's the case, you'll have to go to the print menu and do a search and print and select those records as you're printing. Otherwise, though, what you would want to do just to print a single record from the Records menu is to find that record, click Print, and then follow the same types of steps that we saw earlier, where in this case we're looking at a record that's already in existence. I click Save and Print, and then I get my print preview that will appear. And again, if it's the first time you're printing, you'll want to change the orientation to match the type of card you have and adjust your margins and headers and footers as appropriate. Now, one last thing to talk about with printing is, can you print from a mobile device? Well, yes, you can, but the answer is a little more complicated than just yes or no. The reason I say that is if you have a mobile device, a tablet, or even your phone that's a part of your network in your office and is capable of discovering printers configured in your network in your office, well, sure, you can print from that mobile device. Problem is that most of the printers out there just don't have drivers in existence for mobile devices yet. So unless you're printing from something like a Windows Surface tablet that basically is just running Windows as the operating system, there probably aren't going to be drivers available for you to print. So that could be difficult as far as being able to print from a mobile device. One way that you can get around that potentially is if you have a device called a print server configured attached to your printer. Many printers come with printer servers. Some have external printer servers that you can purchase and configure separately that will work with a mobile device. That's all going to be on a case-by-case basis as far as whether or not that will work or not. So just keep that in mind. Yes, it's possible to print from a mobile device. More often than not, you're probably going to find that you're not able to do so. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching our video on printing badges. You can view more cloud badging training videos from our CloudBadging ID badge design and print software training video series to learn how to maximize your use of this ID card printing software. Thank you.